Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Why Banks, CPAs, and Benefit Brokers Should Offer Payroll Services. My name is Mike Vanoy. I'm the head of marketing at Assure. And in today's webinar, what we're going to do is we're going to unpack our latest ebook that we just published of the same title. You can find that ebook on our website at assuresoftware.com/ebook, Why Banks, CPAs, Brokers Should Offer Payroll. If you don't have the link directly, don't worry, just hop on the website. You can navigate right to it. It's easy to find. And so as you can see, we got the cover there. We got the little thumbnails of all the screenshots just so you can orient yourself. By all means, if you want to hop online right now, if you haven't already, download it. You can follow along. What we're going to do today is we're going to really unpack the message. You guys can read on your own. We're not going to read to you. We want to kind of give you the stories behind the stories, if you will, and really provide some context as the team that we're going to be talking with today was a big part of the research in the development of this book. And with that, I want to introduce our team. So Kathy Palmer, who is the Senior Vice President of Payroll Service Bureau Operations. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you, Mike.
And joining us from her team is Debbie Gonzalez and Ben Kingsbury. Debbie and Ben, welcome to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Happy to be here.
Yep, thanks for having us.
Okay, so we know that there are some commonalities between these groups, and there's also some uniquenesses of why each of these constituencies might be thinking about getting in the payroll business to add some repetitive revenue stream. But I think maybe we even step back before that. And Kathy, if you want to kind of kick us off, when I think about the context of being an essential business, certainly all three of these industries are considered essential businesses, right? I mean, benefits and insurance, health insurance during a pandemic, it doesn't get much more essential than that, right? Certainly being a CPA and providing those services, especially with all the new legislation and all specifically the payroll tax legislation, it's essential. Obviously, the movement of money in banking is essential, but what I think those might not be as obvious is the payroll business it just doesn't get more essential than that, right? Because that's what's paying people. And if you could kind of speak into that, into those, everybody can read what's on the screen, but Kathy, if you could kind of speak into what makes payroll so essential to tack into these three business models.
Yeah, and thank you, Mike. I think the key point here is that payroll is the common thread between these three industries. All businesses, small and large, have a payroll. They need to pay their employees on time. They need to make sure that their taxes are paid on time. They're compliant with wage and labor laws, compliant with tax laws. As basic as payroll is, it's very complex. And when a small business is looking at either starting a business or they're looking to grow their business and they know that they need to be able to have a compliant business, run their business very efficiently, they're going to look to their trusted advisor, their banker, their broker, their CPA. And really what I think is so compelling here is that payroll is such a natural extension for these groups. And we'll talk a lot more about this over the course of this session, but it makes such good sense for these trusted advisors to be able to offer a payroll service which is common to every business, and as I said, very common to the core strategy that each of these groups have in terms of their offerings, business offerings to their customers.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Debbie, you and I have talked a lot about just the frequency of transactions. So while all, say, four of us are in an essential business, the transaction frequency and the frequency that you perform the services, but also have touch points to work with clients is different. Can you speak into that?
Absolutely. Yes, the touch points are different, whether you're a CPA, a broker, or a bank, of when you touch your client. But I truly believe with payroll, if you bring that into your book of business, you're touching them more frequently. So you'll at least have a semi-monthly or a bi-weekly payroll The least amount of times you would have a payroll would be monthly, and many of the times they're weekly. So just think of the various touch points that you would have with your clients being one of these professional types of services. You're already in the industry, but you may only meet with your client or speak to your client a few times a year, maybe once a year. So now you're really engaging with them much, much more. So you're absolutely correct.
Yeah, and when you think about not just the transaction level, but really the opportunities for real meaningful engagement, right? If you're providing banking services, your money is moving in and out on a daily basis, but you're not talking about every transaction, right?
Right, correct. And it's definitely a competitive necessity now. Being a trusted advisor to your clients, which is your book of business. They're just not customers any longer, but they are clients of yours. They trust you. So they will naturally, many of the cases, come to you and ask you, who could handle my payroll? And it's a great thing when you could say, I can. It's a part of my service. It's part of my portfolio. So it's definitely a competitive edge as well.
Thanks. Ben, what would you add to the story?
I think Debbie and Kathy really hit on the main points. Again, payroll is essential to every business, even if a company downsizes or if they're in growth mode, they're going to have payrolls that need to be run. It just gives you more opportunities to interact with your clients, build that trust, deepen and broaden the relationship. There's a lot of very sensitive information and really emotional energy that goes into this too, because it is a person's paycheck. And then there's the compliance aspect of it as well. So that's obviously very important to the business owner and the business staying up and running and keeping everyone out of orange too. So it just gives you, again, that chance to become more of a trusted advisor, helping them with compliance, all this crazy stuff going on with the CARES Act. It's been ACA in the past. There's always something coming up that most of these businesses don't know how to manage on their own. So having someone they can go to who they already trust for other services, and then adding on this extra layer of something that is essential to them being up and running as an organization, just really helps solidify that relationship and hopefully leads to more revenue and just a longer term customer.
Yeah, but I think we're going to probably explore a lot more on this topic of being a trusted advisor.
Yep.
So I think the punchline here is when you're going through the ebook of the point of discussing this in the context of being an essential business is the more essential you can be to your client, the deeper your relationship can be. Clearly, there's a revenue opportunity to expand your business and add a repetitive revenue stream. That's all great. But this strategic way that you can become that real business advisor and deepen those relationships may be the single most important common thread that runs throughout all businesses. So okay, let's do this. Let's jump into one business model at a time and talk about some of the uniquenesses. We talk about some of the common threads, being an essential business, frequency of transaction, deepening of relationships to become trusted advisor. But there are some unique advantages for each of these three businesses that come at this, frankly, from a different vantage point, right? So, Kathy, when we talk about banks, there's obviously core competency in money movement and compliance, but this is the stat on the right from JD Power is a little gut wrenching, right? Only 32% of small business banking customers feel that their bank understands their business. I suspect this isn't because banks don't want to understand their customers, but what is it about the payroll business that can help banks better understand those business customers in what might result of that?
I think what we spoke of earlier is just how critical payroll is to the just health of a small business or any business, but particularly a small business. And with the banking relationship, often I think people view that as just being more transactional. Maybe you're getting a loan, you have a bank, you have a checking account, you have an operating account with your banker. But I think that being able to offer more business solutions, business-oriented solutions, more strategic solutions, will help to gain that trust, to really help them really round out their offering. And the other thing with that is, as Debbie mentioned, this is a recurring relationship. So it gives the business owner a regular contact with the bank. The bankers responsible for that business can have a regular contact with their customer as it relates to things going on in the industry overall. Ben mentioned the CARES Act, the PPP loans. I mean, that's been huge for banks. And personally, we've had experience with some banks that we work with that also offer payroll services. I mean, it was such a natural extension for them to be able to offer the PPP loan, offer their payroll services, and be able to tie those two strategically together. That's talk about stickiness. That's the ultimate in stickiness in terms of building that bond with your customer. I also it's just a great way for a bank to cross-sell services. Again, you have a variety of services in your portfolio already. You have small business emphasis, usually have small business bankers, you've got wealth managers, you've got commercial bankers, all of these different components, and being able to offer payroll, whether it's in the small business component or it's in your cash management area, is another way of just broadening your total portfolio. And again, as I said earlier, just ties that stickiness. The golden rule really with marketing is the more businesses that you have with services with a particular customer, whatever that magic number is, 3 or 4, you begin then to build that sticky relationship.
Kathy, man, I think your example of PPP just in the CARES Act is just so dead center, right? It's for small business owners. I mean, obviously this last 6 months has been overwhelming for all of us, right? But for a small business trying to just survive, not grow, how do they survive this? PPP money was so critical to these small businesses. And there's this obvious overlap and tie-in to payroll. In even though the SBA may have been the one setting the rules, it was the banks who was the arbiter of those rules. They were the ones who are on the hook for the lending the money, and they were the ones who had to have these one-on-one, face-to-face conversations with their clients, explaining the rules of PPP, explaining what the money was going to be used for. And it's obviously a payroll-centric way the money is spent. And so there's this huge overlap. So the clients are already coming to banks for this topic, which is really at its core, it's on the surface, it's a loan, but at its core, it's a payroll issue, right? Debbie or Ben, what else would you see that's unique to banks and why they should be thinking about the payroll business?
Yeah, Mike, I'd say it also helps the bank stand out in the communities they serve. Banks have, for a long time, been one of the pillar businesses, if you will, of where they operate. And there's quite a few of them out there, but not all of them offer payroll. So it is one way that a bank can really stand out. When you're doing payroll for a company, that's also reaching down to the employees who may bank with you for other services or just be aware of you. And it just helps to broaden your awareness within the communities you serve, penetrates the market more. And also, again, going back, gives you just another revenue stream that may be a little less labor intensive once you have it up and running than originating loans or doing some of those other services that require more of that in-house expertise and man hours to get those things done, like advising clients on the PPP loan and other things that come up.
Hey, Ben, say more about standing out, because I think that's a really important topic, right? If I think about how many banks there are in a given marketplace, you got a suburb or a big town, a market, maybe has 150,000, 100,000, 200,000 people. You're going to have dozens, if not hundreds, of banks. You might have What do you think? 2, 3, 4, or 5 payroll companies? Certainly there's CPAs providing payroll services for clients, but actual dedicated payroll companies. How many do you think stand out in the market like that?
I think it definitely can, because like you said, there's a lot of banks, there's regional, there's of course all the national ones, and as just an individual going out and looking at it, they all have their own messaging, but oftentimes they can seem to kind of just blend together. Rates don't tend to be that different between a lot of banks. Obviously there is differences in like services and whatnot, but this just is one way you can stand out. And if you're providing another one of these essential services to businesses in the community, and they already bank with you, or maybe see you as someone that they could go to, get all those banking services, and also get this payroll, that just makes you more attractive as that kind of one-stop shop advisor for all their really money movement and financial needs to run their business. So I think it's a very nice differentiator, because again, not all banks are doing it.
Debbie, maybe bring us home on this topic with the banks. So obviously the revenue streams have changed and have evolved in the last decade for banks. But what is it about the payroll revenue stream and the repetitive nature of this long-term contracted for revenue? How is that different for banks, and why should it be attractive?
Well, it's Mike, that's a very good point that you're bringing up. It's a constant. So it's a constant reoccurring revenue. It's stable in the bank industry. And as Ben mentioned, interest rates are low. So they're not very high, but then also managing their portfolios is maybe adding more loans to the book, which can be, that it's nice to expand the portfolio. If you can add payroll, that's reoccurring. It's always happening. As we've mentioned, at times it can be happening weekly. Even during times like we're experiencing now, we're talking a lot about PPP and what's happened with COVID. Um, you know, Clients need to know what to do, and they just know how to run their business. So when they come to their bank and they're asking, what do I do about my PPP? Now, how does this apply to my payroll? That's a whole nother conversation, along with, okay, I handle my payroll in house. Who do I go to if it's that bank that does have a payroll service in house? Well, that's a wonderful thing. They can handle it, and they are really becoming that trusted advisor. It's a reoccurring revenue. It's always happening. It's churning in the background. It's resilient. And times like this, even when times are not, they're just not the same as they used to be. You need them even more. You need the revenue stream, because that doesn't go away. So
Yeah,
I think it's really important.
appreciate that. It may be one last thing I would throw in, and it's probably a lesser consideration, but it's the retail side, right? So obviously we're kind of focused here on the repetitive revenue stream in deepening the business relationships to become that trusted advisor to that business client, where there's all kinds of potential services from merchant services and operating loans and lines of credit and whatnot. But there's something special about being at the source of money, right? And not having to pay for advertising to reach out to people to decide where to bank when they first get their money, which is in the form of a paycheck, right? And so the retail opportunity really exists because now you have frontline exposure to all kinds of new potential customers. All right, so I think we've kind of hit the big ones here for banks. Let's talk CPAs. So a little bit of a different story here. So when I think CPAs, there's a lot of CPAs already provide some level of payroll service for their clients, right? Whether it's the professional edition of QuickBooks or another app, they clearly have tax compliance expertise. This is, in many cases, the large part of the revenue stream for their business. Kathy, talk about maybe why going bigger into payroll is important for CPAs, and really what that even means, right? What does it mean to go bigger into payroll?
Yeah, I think it's you hit the nail on the head, because payroll and CPAs have always really been hand in glove. I mean, I have had numerous CPAs tell me that the way that a small business handles their payroll really is an indication of the financial health of that business, and they always want their small business to use a payroll professional, outsource to a professional, to make sure that they are being compliant, they are running their business according to all wage and labor laws. And so I think that's always been a part of the counsel that a CPA would give their business customer. And you had mentioned that most of them are in it. I'm going to give you my non-scientific, but in my many years of being in this business, I see CPAs really falling into three groups. A third, and payroll is a part of all of them. A third of them are referring to a payroll professional. They know it's important. They want to refer that out. A third, as you mentioned, are doing it themselves. Maybe that's not in a big way. Maybe for 25, 50, they're doing some payroll services for them. And then the other third has already recognized the need to have this as a division or a business unit, its own P&L, and running a payroll service bureau for its clients and with hundreds of clients. So I think that it's such a natural portion of the portfolio for the CPA, but I also believe, and I've seen this happen, where CPAs are hesitant in many cases to market themselves. I've gone to numerous webinars on marketing their CPA practice. One great way to do that is getting out there and talking about payroll. I mean, to get new customers, it's tough. But everybody needs payroll. We've already talked about that. And having your own payroll service or aligning yourself with a payroll service and having them go out and actually market and bring in new customers for you, that's a great way for you then to cross-sell the rest of your services. So that's terrific. And then, as we talked about a little earlier, I think with all three of these segments, it's the fact that payroll is not seasonal. It is a recurring revenue. It does provide you more stability and resilience in your own financial business model to be able to weather some of the seasonal aspects, particularly of the accounting practices.
Kathy, can you go deeper on that one? Because the other thing about CPAs that I think about is, they are maybe more vulnerable to seasonality than, say, banks. But there's also another challenge that CPAs firms have of how do you grow revenue without adding headcount to inexpensive labor, right? This revenue scalability. If you're a bank, and if you're fee-based, having a really big depositor it doesn't add more cost than having a small depositor, but yet you make more money, right? If you're a CPA, it's kind of how many hours are in a day that you can bill in many cases. So what is it about the payroll business that allows them to scale their revenue?
That's an excellent point. Thanks for asking that. And we'll talk about staffing and all that a little later, but I think the main thing is the technology is available today that you can offer online payroll. And that provides you an opportunity to market outside your immediate community, where typically you have one-on-one relationships with your tax clients and your audit clients. But with payroll, you can broaden that. Using online payroll also puts that work onto your customers. They're doing the work themselves. You're actually doing the back office. And the rules change. I mean, but having spoken with several professionals who are running payroll service bureaus, when you're first starting out in your early years, it's maybe 100 customers to a CSR in terms of supporting you, particularly if you're using your online. As you really grow, that could be 200 to 1. And again, the technology will allow you to do that. So again, in terms of being able to have more elasticity, to be able to cover a broader market, and to be able to actually handle more customers, using payroll as that platform, I think is an excellent decision.
Debbie, what is it that's different about CPAs and how payroll can deepen the trusted advisor relationship as compared to, say, banks or benefit brokers?
Well, I think Kathy really touched on that quite a bit, but she had mentioned the natural flow. Um, CPAs, accountants, they're either handling bookkeeping, they're handling their taxes, whether it's the company's taxes, even their personal taxes. And as a matter of fact, those individual taxes, those people may have businesses as well. So it's really a natural extension and flow because they're already handling tax planning, tax transactions, filings. So now we throw in the payroll with that, which is also handling their tax returns, their tax deposits of using a software solution, which, will help them with the compliance and all of that. So I really do feel it's a natural flow to add to their portfolio, which expands it. It really will also add visibility in their local market, or if they want to expand outside of their local market, they're able to do that with payroll because they can go ahead and hit other markets that are not necessarily in their community as well. So, but yeah, CPAs, they touch their clients at times once a year. If they have a relationship with their clients, they may tax plan or strategize once a year in the middle of the year. Well, now they have a reason to speak to their clients more often because payroll's running, it's recurring, it's happening weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly or monthly. They need to talk to them. So it's just a really great approach to really, expand the relationship, expanding the book of business if you want to. It's completely up to you, but it definitely is a natural flow to the business.
Yeah, one of the things that I just think is so cool is, we're obviously at Assure, we're focused on helping small businesses grow through the management of their human capital, right? Payroll and compliance is part of that, but how do you grow your business? And if I'm a CPA firm, the better advice I can give to my business customer, the more they grow, the more money I make, right? As the online services, I'm getting paid based on how many employees they have, how many payrolls they run, how big those payrolls are. So it's not gated by how many hours there are in a day to bill. So very good. Ben, anything you want to add on CPA firms?
I think Debbie and Kathy touched on most of it. Again, it's a natural extension, and as we all know, when you're dealing with sensitive data and stuff that needs to be accurate, having all of that managed in one place and not having things that can get lost in translation, if you will, is great. And since CPA firms are handling a lot of these financials already, it is, again, a great natural extension. I'd also say it can be a great foot in the door with other businesses or individuals that you could possibly get in with payroll. And then as you gain that trust and build that relationship, bring in more of your kind of high cost CPA services that you typically offer.
Right. Hey, Kathy, I'm going to ask you to comment on one last thing. I think, we really haven't talked about valuation and wealth creation. I think it's, and because I think it's probably because it impacts differently. If I'm a bank, there's a valuation model. It's a mature industry, right? So same thing for benefit brokers and in buying a book of business. But can you talk about valuation in wealth creation? What adding a payroll service could really mean to the valuation of this recurring revenue stream, and could be a game changer for maybe an exit plan for a CPA firm?
Mike, thank you for bringing that up. That is a great point, and I have seen that. Most firms at some point. I mean, you're going to evaluate, your exit, whether depending on the management structure, whether you've got other partners who will be maintaining the business after you retire, or you have family members in the business, or you're looking to exit completely. Adding a recurring revenue business to your portfolio adds tremendously to the value, because whether it's Wall Street or anybody evaluating an acquisition, they want to know that you have recurring revenue, one-time revenue, or annual, just one-time annual revenue, those types of things can come and go, but knowing that you have a consistent consistent recurring revenue is very, very important. And, and I see also accounting firms looking at, maybe they've owned their payroll business, they've grown it to a certain point, rather than maybe based on partnerships, the CPA firm will move on, but they want to jettison the payroll business. Again, payroll as a standalone, the multiples are really pretty good because you've got a number of players that are vying for that. The national players, there are a lot of other players within the community that are looking at payroll acquisitions, and so the multiples. If you've got a profitable business, you've got a low retention. A high retention rate, let's put it that way, and you've got a nice mix of business, meaning they're on, it's not just one or two large customers, but if you've got a really good business, the multiples could be, I don't want to speculate, but they can be quite attractive, and it is something that there is a market for today, and certainly is an excellent way, whether if you're you're looking at jettisoning a portion of your CPA firm, or if you're looking at the firm in whole, payroll is really going to add to the overall valuation of that business.
Yeah, thanks, Kathy. I think, those lessons can apply to everybody in the call today, right? But I think it's especially important for CPA firms. We're going to move on to our next topic, but I want to revisit valuation when we talk about technology, because I think technology creates an opportunity to kind of mash together separate revenue streams, right? If my service delivery model is a technology-enabled service, a potential buyer might not be able to, or even want to, dissect the different revenue streams, valuing them differently, and actually increase the value of the entire firm. So we'll revisit that. Let's jump to benefit brokers. So we kind of made the business case for banks, money movement compliance, deepen relationships with their business customers. CPAs, they're darn near in the payroll business anyway. You may as well start making money at it and get a repetitive revenue stream. What is it about the benefit brokers that these guys come in from a much more unique angle? Why is it that benefit brokers should be in the payroll business, Kathy?
Yeah, I want to start. I think the catalyst for this really, there were two major reasons. Number one was the ACA. When the ACA was passed, my goodness, now was that 12 years ago? That's when I think benefit brokers realized that, hey, there's a lot of important information that really dovetails into what we're advising our clients related to the ACA, related to their health plans, what plans they should offer. And I think that's where you saw the aha moment that these two industries really are part and parcel and should be combined. And because it's you can get your census data, you really can be able to become more of an advisor. I did see a lot more benefit brokers adding sort of advisory services after the ACA came out, because there were so many questions as to what I should do and how I should do it and that type of thing. So I think that was important. The other catalyst has been competition. There are a couple of major, you guys know them, payroll providers, national payroll providers, and they both offer benefits, and it is a significant part of their business. They're growing that business. They're aggressive in selling. So if you have clients that are using one of these two national players, they're trying to cross-sell your customer hard and heavy to try to get them to move their broker of record over to them. And so from a competitive standpoint, you need to be able to have your own payroll or a refer payroll to a company that you know is not going to be your competitor, that's going to be helping you grow your business, retain your business, and still allow you to achieve your goals. And I'll let Ben and Debbie hit on some of the other reasons, but I think those are two critical ones as to why this is so important to benefit brokers.
Yeah, man, I think that it's such a huge issue for brokers. I mean, based on some M&A transactions in the marketplace in this last year, that's never shone a brighter light on that topic, right? Everything we've talked about for banks and CPAs applies to benefit brokers for the repetitive revenue, deepening relationships. But there is something really unique here that these guys need to protect their book of business, right? And you can't have a payroll partner that's coming after you. Debbie or Ben, what are some of the other unique things about benefit brokers, why they should be thinking about being in the payroll business?
Well, I think Ben mentioned it one time before about one-stop shop. I believe brokers have definitely entered that arena where their clients are asking them, "Oh, I'm really needing to get my payroll handled," whether they're doing it in-house or they're not unhappy with a larger provider, and they're wanting to find out, do you handle payroll? Because it's now become a natural extension to the broker business. It really has. And to Kathy's point, it started way back with ACA, and people didn't know what to do, where to turn, what am I supposed to do now? And they went to their broker and they were their trusted advisor. And so they're doing the same thing now with, even more so with payroll. So, I've said it before with the others, but it's a natural extension to the portfolio, and it is protecting your book of business. If you're not
Definitely.
offering payroll, there's another broker down the street that is. And that's what we're finding is brokers are implementing this. And if you're not able to handle that internally for your clients, so to speak, then there's another broker that is. And they prefer to have that all in one place because the reporting's there. They can grab the census report. They can grab any other reporting needs they may need in regards to ACA or to help better plan for their health insurance the following year. There is so much that information that they can take from it. So I just think that now it's become a necessity in the broker world to have payroll as a business. Absolutely.
Ben, you have an interesting way of talking about payroll as like the ultimate benefit, right? And you think about what is it that benefit brokers have provided? Well, I mean, if you really unsexy it down, I mean, it's health insurance historically, and then that kind of grew and developed into real cost mitigation strategies, employee talent retention, attraction and retention strategies, and it built into a much more of a consultative business. And we kind of lose track sometimes that, benefits are there to attract employees, and there's nothing more important than the payroll benefit. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, Mike, I mean, I think you hit it. So not to belabor the point, but it is a real natural extension for brokers to be in the payroll, because I think most of us on the phone would agree that our paycheck and payroll is our number one employee benefit. So if you're managing that, all the other benefits, and helping your clients with that, it only makes sense to be managing the one that's most important to at least a majority of those employees in the company. So yeah, like you said, it's just kind of is what it is. It is, everyone needs that paycheck. It feeds into everything else, and just again, a natural extension of what brokers are already managing. Might as well be in that number one benefit as well.
Yeah, and then when it comes to wealth creation, I mean, it's just so critical. We talked about not having a payroll company that you either that competes with you, but there's just nothing more important than retaining those premiums, right? And retaining those business customers. And this is just another layer of stickiness. If payroll is working, why would you leave your benefit broker, right?
Exactly.
Right.
And all this, and this goes for all of them. This recurring revenue just helps with the managing of your budget yourselves and forecasting and all that, just because it's pretty similar throughout the year. There'll be some fluctuations. January, there's a nice surge with W-2 fees and everything, and companies that you're servicing will come and go to some extent and grow and shrink in some cases, but it's all pretty forecastable and predictable, and that just really helps with managing your business throughout the year as well.
Yeah,
I think
Go ahead, Debbie.
Oh, I was going to say, Mike, one thing I would add too is with payroll, it starts with one employee. So there is no, I have to have 50. Oh, I don't need,
Yeah.
I want to wait till I, got 100 employees. Health insurance can be very specific to a business, and payroll truly starts with one employee. So, I mean, even look at the backdoor way in to the broker business. You'll always have that recurring revenue, even if it's one, and you're that trusted advisor. That's great. They don't want to leave you. You're advising them and guiding them through their business. Many
Yeah.
people will have a broker and they'll have a CPA, and now CPAs and brokers, they actually are partnering more and more because of that. Because really, you need both. So
Yeah,
I
you
just
just
wanted to add that.
and Debbie, you always talk about the trusted advisor, the relationships. I just think about, you know, if I'm a benefit broker, I'm looking for ways to get in front of my client more frequently than just in an open enrollment discussion and what the new plans are going to be and what the options are, right? But if I have a weekly or a biweekly payroll that I'm naturally engaged, right? And I have my finger on the pulse. Are they adding? Are they laying people off? Are they growing? Are they shrinking? And I can watch real time what's
Right.
happening, to participation rates and to claim rates, and have this natural year-round conversation that is a consultative benefits conversation that you might not make the big decisions until the next enrollment season, but the conversation is year-round.
You got it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, so I think we made a strong business case why banks, CPAs, brokers need to be thinking about being in the payroll business. Let's say we've made the decision. We're gonna enter the business. Now we have some decisions to make, some go-to-market planning here. And I think before we tackle the more strategic things than the left, let's talk about the elephant in the room on the right here. Around payroll tax, and let's just kind of break it down quickly for the three constituencies. And Kathy, let's just start with CPAs. Obviously, CPAs are starting on second base here, right? Because they come at this from a tax angle. But how should these three business models be thinking about payroll tax compliance if they're going to enter the payroll business?
And I think this is a critical component to think about as you're building out your business plan, because we all know, those of us in the payroll business, that the number one reason that a small business will outsource their payroll is because of tax filing. I had mentioned earlier, it is so complex. There are over 11,000 state and local taxing agencies, and in any given year, you're going to have 1,000 or more changes to state, federal, local tax. Whether it's an increase in a particular tax, or there are the things we've just having to work with just recently with FFCRA and the CARES Act, the executive order. There are a lot of things that are very, very complex, and it's important that you put tax front and center in your planning, because it's going to make or break you. There is an old statistic that's been out there for years, is that basically, 40% or more of small businesses have huge tax penalties because they're just not making the right decisions, those that don't outsource. So it is critical. And so I think there are a couple of components here. One is making sure that you hire. There are two options. You either hire a really good professional, and it could be within the CPA firm itself, that they have good payroll tax expertise, or you hire someone from another service bureau to make sure you do that, or you outsource. And if you're starting up a business, I would strongly encourage you to consider outsourcing that to a professional. There are a number of companies out there. Actually, Assure also has an outsourced tax division that's available as well. But making sure at that point you could say, I know that's important. I'm going to check that off, as I have confidence that my taxes will be taken care of professionally, paid on time, compliant, and that's one less headache. But this is a really critical area to address as part of your overall business plan.
Yeah, Kenny, I think that's important for people to understand that regardless whether they do business with Assure or not, that this is something that can be bifurcated, right? If I'm a CPA, tax complexity and expertise may be the reason I get into business, right? But compliance may be in the DNA for a bank, but payroll taxes are still new. Payroll taxes are not native to a benefit broker. So the ability to start doing, say, just payroll processing to enter the business and still outsource tax filing to someone else is an option that I think most people just don't realize. All right, so let's move to the left here, because this isn't, and Debbie, you and I have had some cool conversations about kind of go to market. This isn't as simple. It doesn't have to be as simple as, boy, I'm just adding a product called payroll processing, and I'm gonna pitch it to my clients. What are some things that people should be thinking about their go to market strategy?
Right. You're correct. I mean, the nice part is that you do have a client base. So if you do have a client base, that's great. You can start there. That's a comfortable place to start. I think that everybody has a vision and a plan, and wherever you want to start at and where you want to go is completely up to you. Just know that you want to make sure you have the software and you have the internal processes in place to be able to go there, and you stick to your plan. But to your point, I mean, you absolutely can attract other types of businesses. And one way, I mean, you can actually look into your own client base and see, oh, what do I service most of? Restaurants, medical practices, professionals. What is hospitality? I don't know. A lot of times, until you look into your own self, they say, your business, you'll see, wow, I do attract a lot of these types of businesses. Well, you can do more of that by adding your payroll business and really customizing it to that vertical and that specific area of that you want to, I guess, attack or expand. So you can start with client base, but then you can also say, I'm really good with restaurants. I've helped so many restaurants along the way. I'm going to expand that vertical, and that's how I'm going to structure my payroll business by making sure you have the right payroll package already in place for the types of that type of business that you would be mostly focused on, which you can do that with your software. But verticalizing, it will really, it's a go-to way to enter your community market, but also to be able to expand into other markets if you wish. So it's a nice way to grow.
And Debbie, I've been kind of beating this drum for a while now about how businesses need to think about their value prop as not just being geographically based, right? As
Hmm.
technology just improves, in consumers, aka your customers, are more and more comfortable doing business with a company. They have no idea where they exist, where their headquarters is, right? Or where the person that that maybe is even taking a support call. They're using apps, using technology that kind of flattens geography. So I think this is an important thing to be thinking about anyway. But man, in case
Right.
it wasn't awareness, COVID, threw some gasoline on that fire, right?
Right.
With all the shutdown
Yeah.
and shutting down so much face to face, you've got to add value in beyond just the ability to just be quote unquote local.
Right. Technology does become important. Absolutely.
Hey Ben, so not to contradict Debbie, because I completely agree. These businesses, we need to be thinking about where's our value really going to come from, and maybe how could I be the best golf course management company, payroll accounting firm in the country? How could I become the best restaurant consulting benefit consulting firm in the country, right? So I love that line of thinking. There's also just something really practical about starting with a customer base. Speak to how you think this could maybe be a phased in approach and where people should be thinking about starting.
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice to start with those low-hanging fruit, right? Especially when you're getting into something new, start with the basics. So if you have a a group of customers you already serve, have that established relationship with. If you can bring them something else to the table that's just going to continue to build on that relationship, and they already trust you for the service they get, then it's just a kind of very easy, warm lead for this new venture you have. So starting with those warm, friendly customers that are already in the door, starting with the basics as well. When you're getting into something new, maybe don't take on that largest client or go to them first. When you're starting to offer payroll, start with those kind of basic ones. And as your experience and expertise grows, it'll allow you to get into some more complex stuff. And like Debbie was saying, maybe you're going to identify a niche or market that you really specialize in, and you're, again, the #1 payroll and broker or CPA bank for construction companies in the Northeast. Or you just really have a lot of opportunity when you start with those basics and get those under your feet to then build on that and expand out, hire sales force, go directly at those niches as time goes on. And then you may identify other products and services that are another natural extension. As we've been talking about, payroll's kind of a natural extension to all the businesses you guys are doing, but there are other things ancillary to that that may be specific to niches, or just in general, like time and attendance or workers' comp, 401k, that then you can build that product offering. So if you start with that basic payroll, there's even more upside to it as you expand out, get more comfortable, and just a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, very good. Hey, Kathy, I'd like you to maybe comment on one last topic before we move on. I know we're starting on watching the clock here. But I think really important to think about, this might sound weird, the top left question, what products will you offer? We don't have to think about this as here's just yet another line item or a SKU of something we offer. Okay, here's my standard business, and here's this line item called payroll. I could process your payroll for you if you want. What are some creative ways that you've seen resellers of all stripes go to market and maybe it's bundling, right? Maybe it's an all-in for a single retainer. Maybe it's this coupling of products together. How have you seen firms get creative here?
Thank you, Mike. I actually wrote a note about that myself. So I do see that, and you see it. You can bundle it with existing products that you have at your CPA firm or your benefits. You can bundle benefits and payroll. You can, as a bank, you could bundle in new accounts or certain loans. I worked with a bank one year that actually was combining loans with payroll. I mean, if you open this amount of a loan, you got this amount with your payroll. So I think bundling is a very creative way of really wrapping a package for stickiness, right? You're cross-selling through a bundle, but it adds value. I mean, to a customer, they're saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm getting this extra value with the bundle." And also, I mean, one of the extension of this is Ben was talking about products that you would offer, and I wanted to just mention this as well. My advice would be, if you're going to start offering a payroll service, start with payroll and tax. Right? You do that. Find a good TLM, time and labor management partner that you would work with. You don't have to manage that on a day-to-day basis. You could partner with that, and then all of a sudden you could be combining payroll, tax, and TLM. Looking at the product life cycle, right? So you sort of move to a point there, and you feel you're good. Then maybe the next, you're ready for that next bump in the product life cycle. Maybe then you begin to offer services like onboarding. Maybe do onboarding, payroll, tax, and TLM, or onboarding and payroll and tax only. You can begin using the product life cycle as an opportunity to add new products in, to either bundle or offer separately. But again, my advice would be, look at what you have currently in your portfolio. How can you combine those to add value to your customers, and then be able to offer those? So, Mike, that was a really good question. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think part of it is when I think about from a marketing perspective, there's a bundling strategy, right, that I can use to differentiate. There's also just a strategic decision of what's my business model, right? You know, a stupid example, but you know, Mattel makes Barbie dolls. You know, they sell a Barbie doll for $20. They don't make their money on Barbie. They sell Barbie dolls for $20 so they can sell little tiny plastic combs that cost a quarter of a cent for $5, right? So what is your business model? Do you want to since payroll is ubiquitous, all your customers need it and use it? Do you want to make that as a loss leader so you can get bigger commercial loans and entire books? Is it just a retention strategy for insurance premiums? Is it part of a bundled in retainer strategies to flatten out the revenue stream of your CPA firm? I think there's a lot of ways to think about it beyond just bundling to be an attractive offer, but you know, what is your real business model and what's the strategy? Certainly, we don't like the idea of our products being used as loss leaders. But at the end of the day, we're here to help you grow, right? And so to think about the end business model, I think is important. Okay, let's. I think maybe last topic here we're going to tackle, and we're going to be hitting it on time here. Is getting started. You know, so okay, we made the case. Yes, I want to go into business. I've got a good go-to-market strategy. How should we be thinking? And Kathy, I'm gonna let you take this one by yourself because we just got this one other slide for time. How should we be thinking about staffing, technology, security, and operations?
These are the four most important considerations for you, as if you've made the determination, yes, I want to start payroll division, or I want to make this a part of our overall offering. The strategic decisions made, you're building out your business plan. These are the four most critical elements. One is staffing. It's critical that you hire a payroll professional who has worked in operations, maybe preferably they've had operations and tax experience in what we call a payroll service bureau. They're used to running a service bureau. They're used to doing the hands-on. They understand the urgency. I will say to you, I've learned this many, many years ago, payroll is immediate and emotional. You need someone who's been they're battle tested in that regard so that they could run a very efficient operation for you. So that's key. I also believe that you need to, because of the technology available today. Technology is the great equalizer. You're able to offer small business really technology that it wasn't that long ago that a 500-man company or larger companies were able to offer. And from enterprise software, you're able to offer that today online. The technology is there that you can provide very high-tech options for self-service, for do-it-yourself payrolls, for everything that they're now looking for in any kind of business software. You can offer that. So the technology is very important. So you'll have to evaluate various technologies. Again, as we talked about, do you hire and manage the tax filing in-house as a part of the software that you're purchasing, or do you look to go to a full service outsource option for that? That's critical. And I do want to hit upon security. Whether you're a financial institution or an accounting firm or a benefits broker, you know the importance of security, and you probably already have in your firm a designated security officer. This is important because the information that you have in your business, the information that is housed in payroll, is critically important. It's PII. You've got to make sure that it's secure. So you want to make sure that, and if you don't have that security officer in place, it's important that you hire someone that has that expertise to help you get up and running, because the last thing you want to do is to have some sort of event or security or payroll fraud or something that will derail what you're trying to do. And again, I think of all businesses that are the most capable or the most that this makes the most sense to go into the payroll business, or the three industries we've been talking about today. But you need to understand, need to be pursuing, your SOC 2. You need to put some guardrails in place with your staff. You need to do security training. You need to train your clients on it. So security is going to be a very vital part of that too. All of that's very doable. There are a lot of resources out there today to help you build this out. But those are my key points and advice for those of you starting out on the Payroll Service Bureau.
Yeah, thanks, Kathy. And I would add maybe just two comments. Number one is if this slide scares you a little bit, it probably should. It's not. This isn't easy, but if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? I mean, there's a reason there's only 1, 2, 3, 4 payroll providers in your local market, right? This can be a differentiator that adds meaningful repetitive revenue stream that adds real value to the firm in potential wealth creation. So yeah, it's a big deal. We just want you to go in eyes wide open with a good plan. It absolutely can and does work. We work with hundreds of companies to provide the service, so we know it does work. Just want you to be to walk into it soberly, I guess. The other thing I would add on technology, Debbie was talking about different go-to-market strategies. If you want to be the best restaurant, the best provider of insurance consultancy and payroll services, HR services to the restaurant business, there are real opportunities with integrations to maybe point of sale systems or to benefit systems that you guys can build yourself, not just from a vendor, that not only makes it stickier, it increases your value proposition to more dominate that particular niche that you're pursuing, but there's a real value multiplier because it helps to it helps to commingle, if you will, the revenue streams of payroll versus what your core business is. If you are providing this end-to-end for a single fee service that includes payroll, it includes your core services of your business for a single repetitive fee enabled by technology, that can be a real game changer for valuation. All right, let's bring it home. One last thing, and I'll ask, since we have a quote from Kathy on the left, you guys can read. Debbie and Ben, real quick, just kind of rattle off, what do you think the big things, the mistakes to avoid if for any of these businesses that are going to kind of stick a toe in the water here and enter the payroll business?
Yeah, I think you and Kathy just touched on a lot of them, and that number one up there is one that really sticks out to me, is the lacking that payroll specific knowledge and expertise experience. If you don't have that quarterback, if you will, in operations that knows what they're doing and has been in the trenches doing this, it can be really difficult, and you can get yourself in some trouble. You need to, like Mike said, there is some barrier to entry in this business, which is good. So not everyone's doing it, but to be in it, you really do need that key knowledge base to make sure you're doing everything right for yourselves as well as your clients. And I'll let Debbie touch on a couple other ones, but number 4 there as well, setting unrealistic expectations. You're going to make a plan, stick to it. It may change over time, but from the beginning, you need to set realistic expectations for yourselves as well as for your clients. Because when you're entering a new market or rolling out a new product, there's inevitably going to be a few hiccups, bumps along the way. So being realistic with yourselves and your clients, setting those up front, and then sticking to that plan will just really help you get through those and get to a point where things are running as smoothly as things ever can run.
Yeah, Mike, I'll be quick. I think Ben hit pretty much all of them, but the 2 things for me is core competency for sure in the areas of your business. That's huge. And then the second one is don't lose focus on your plan. Don't get starry-eyed. If you are really good at something now, hone into that and work your way up into something that might be a little bit more uncomfortable. It'll make the whole process a lot smoother.
Yeah. and I kind of love 2, 3, and 4 into one thing. Number one, you got to add the skills. If you don't have them in house, you got to add them. But then the rest of it, it's a repetitive revenue model, right? It's like a potter's wheel. It takes a lot of kicks and a lot of pressure to get that flywheel going. And so you got to be patient. You got to work that plan. But the beautiful thing about the flywheel is once you get it going, it's also hard to stop. It becomes this long-term yielding revenue stream. So, Kathy, Debbie, Ben, I want to thank you guys so much. And I want to thank everybody for attending today. By all means, download the ebook, suresoftware.com/ebook, why bank CPAs brokers should offer payroll. Encourage you to download it, read it, share it. And if you have any questions, by all means, hop on the website. Got all kinds of ways that you can contact us. We'd love to have a conversation because this is in fact what we do. So we provide human capital management software in the form of payroll and tax software and services, time and attendance, HR software, and HR human delivered services, anywhere from call center to special projects. So any way we can help, we do this in a white labeled fashion. Our job is to help you grow by helping your clients grow by getting the most from their human capital. So with that, thanks everybody for attending. Thanks Kathy, Debbie, Ben, and have a great day.
Thank you, Mike.